The train left the station just after sunset, at a time when the sky had not yet fully surrendered to darkness. The platform was lit by gas lamps that cast long, trembling shadows across the stone floor. Steam drifted lazily from the engine, rising and dissolving into the cold evening air. The sound of metal against metal echoed softly as the wheels began to turn, slow at first, then steady, following a route that had been traveled countless times before. Nothing about that departure suggested history was about to break. Passengers settled into their seats with the quiet routines of ordinary life. Some folded newspapers. Others leaned back with closed eyes. Already half asleep, a mother adjusted her child's coat. An elderly man stared through the window, watching the station disappear behind him. Tickets were checked, luggage stored, doors secured. The conductor walked the aisle, lantern in hand, nodding politely, unaware that this would be the last time his face would ever be seen. The train was scheduled to arrive before midnight. It was a simple journey. No mountains to cross, no dangerous bridges, no uncharted terrain. Just rails stretching through countryside, passing small towns, forests, and rivers that had never caused trouble before. As the train moved forward, night fully settled. Outside the windows, darkness pressed close, broken only by the occasional farmhouse light or the faint reflection of stars on glass. Inside, the rhythm of the tracks lulled passengers into silence. Conversations faded. Breathing slowed. The train became a moving pocket of sleep, carrying dozens of lives toward destinations they would never reach. Somewhere along the route, the train passed its last confirmed checkpoint. Telegraph operators later confirmed receiving routine signals. Everything was normal, speed steady, weather clear. No mechanical issues reported. Then, without warning, the signals stopped. At first, this caused no concern. Communication failures happened. Lines went dead. Operators assumed the train had passed into a quiet stretch where reception was weak. They waited. Midnight came and went. At the arrival station, the platform remained empty. The clock ticked loudly in the waiting hall. A single employee paced back and forth, checking his watch, then the tracks, then the schedule again. Trains ran late sometimes. 15 minutes passed, then 30, then an hour. Still nothing. By early morning, concern turned into confusion. The train had not arrived. No message had been received. No delay reported. No explanation offered. The tracks leading into the station were undisturbed, cold, silent. Telegraph messages were sent in all directions. Station masters along the route were questioned. None had seen the train after a certain point. Each station confirmed the same thing. It had passed through normally, exactly on time until suddenly it hadn't. Search efforts began at dawn. Railway workers walked the tracks on foot, inspecting every section carefully. They expected to find something: a derailed carriage, twisted metal, broken rails, signs of fire or impact. But mile after mile revealed nothing. The rails were intact, the ground undisturbed. No debris, no damage, no blood, no sign that a heavy train carrying dozens of people had ever passed through during the night. Rivers near the route were dragged. Bridges were inspected. Tunnels were searched from end to end. Nothing. There was no wreckage because there was no crash. The train had not fallen. It had not burned. It had not exploded. It had simply disappeared. Families began to arrive at stations, holding tickets, asking questions that no one could answer. A woman waited with a packed lunch meant to be eaten together at home. A father stood silently, staring down the tracks, refusing to leave. Names were written down, addresses recorded, promises made that information would follow. Days passed. Newspapers printed cautious headlines. Officials avoided dramatic language. They spoke of an incident, an ongoing investigation, a temporary lack of information. But privately, even experienced railway engineers admitted they had never seen anything like this. A train could not vanish without a trace. As weeks turned into months, rumors filled the silence left by facts. Some claimed the train had been diverted by mistake onto an old, abandoned line that no longer appeared on modern maps. Historians were consulted. Forgotten routes were rediscovered on yellow documents. But when investigators followed those paths, they found nothing: no rails, no ties, no bridges. In many places, forests had reclaimed the land decades earlier. Others suggested sabotage, political unrest, criminal acts, secret operations. But there were no demands, no messages, no evidence of violence. More unsettling stories began to circulate quietly among locals. Farmers spoke of hearing a train whistle late at night, long after the railway had fallen silent. The sound came from directions where no tracks existed. Some said the ground vibrated briefly, as if something heavy had passed beneath the earth. Others claimed they saw lights moving through fog, low and steady, then vanishing without sound. Officials dismissed these accounts as imagination, grief, or coincidence. Eventually, the investigation slowed. Resources were redirected. Files were archived. The missing passengers were officially declared dead, despite the absence of bodies. Death certificates were issued with vague causes. Insurance claims were processed. Life moved on, unevenly, leaving behind unanswered questions and quiet wounds. Years passed. The railway route changed. Sections were modernized. Others were abandoned entirely. Stations were repurposed into storage buildings, cafes, or left to decay. Grass grew between the stones where passengers once stood waiting. But the story did not fade. Among railway workers, especially those assigned to night shifts, the missing train became a shared secret. Some reported signal lights activating briefly on unused lines. Others spoke of clocks stopping for a few seconds, then restarting without explanation. One maintenance worker claimed to have found fresh wheel marks on tracks that had not been used in years, marks that vanished by morning. A retired conductor later told a story he had kept to himself for decades. While inspecting a remote section of line at night, he saw a train moving slowly in the distance. It had no markings, no illuminated windows. The sound was muted, unnatural. When he looked again, it was gone. He never reported it. He did not want to be remembered as the man who believed in ghosts. Historians revisiting the case found the same problem every time. The documentation confirmed the train's existence up to a certain point, then abruptly ended. Passenger lists survived. Crew assignments were recorded. Schedules printed. Tickets validated. Everything existed except the arrival. No final explanation was ever agreed upon. Some suggested a rare natural phenomenon, an undocumented geological event, something so improbable it left no trace. Others leaned toward human error buried under layers of bureaucracy and lost records. A few, more quietly, admitted they had no explanation at all. The tracks today are silent. Most people who once waited for the train are gone. The names of the passengers survive only in archives and family memories. But the mystery remains untouched by time. And sometimes, on quiet nights, when the air is still and the world feels unusually thin, people living near the old routes swear they can hear it. The distant rhythm of wheels on rails. Approaching, steady, familiar. A train that left on time. A journey that began normally. A destination that was never reached. And a question that history never learned how to answer.